We'll now go on to the study. Right, today we'll finish off our study of the Anapanasati Sutta, M118, Majjhima Nikaya, 118. Today we will continue from section 23. This is part 2, the perfection of the 4 focuses of mindfulness. So part 1 deals with breath meditation itself. Okay, part 1 is the actual breath meditation. Now, when you did your meditation today, you are doing only the first tetrad, that is section 18. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4 of section 18. Of course, you have done a bit of simplified version where you don't watch a long breath, short breath. You can still be aware of the long breath, short breath naturally as it comes. But as you become more focused, you begin to notice those long breath, short breath, and you are naturally naturally note them. You're aware of them. Okay. Then you watch the whole flow of the breath. Now, what's interesting about this breath meditation is that although we call it breath meditation, actually only the first part is the breath meditation. And to be more exact, it's the first part of the first part, the first tetrad. So that first tetrad is like a springboard. You use your breath as a springboard. You calm yourself, and then you watch the feelings, and then you watch the mind, and then you examine the dharmas, the states of mind. Today we look a little bit closer to all those, how that is done. So in part 2, the focus are the 4 focuses of mindfulness. In other words, the breath, the calmness that we get from the breath, we use it to do satipatthana. So here you can see breath meditation is as the basis for focuses of mindfulness for satipatthana. So I'm going to read to you this section 23 onwards, that's Roman number part 2, the perfection of 4 focuses of mindfulness. And then I will show you the summary and I explain to you how they're connected as far as I understand them. Okay. Now, why I say as far as I understand them is because these suttas, they are practical guides. They're not things to merely remember. It's good to remember them, yes. But it's like what should I say? It's like a computer guide. See, you follow your computer guide, but you don't just read the guide. See, you follow what the guide tells you to do, and then you work on your computer. So you have the final thing to do is to work on the computer and get things done. So you practice, and then you look at the sutta and you say, oh, okay, now I understand better what's going on. Now I can talk about it and so on. Okay, so that's what the suttas are about. So the suttas are very practical. In other words, they describe to you what you're supposed to do. And then after you have done it, you read again, you say, oh, there is a very interesting, deeper aspect to it. So the practical aspect is the first section. Now we are learning how to apply satipatthana, the focuses of mindfulness to it, how to use the breath to watch the body, watch feelings, watch the mind, and watch the dharmas. Let's look at it first, and I'll talk a bit more. Section 23. And how, bhikshus, is the mindfulness of the in and out breathing developed, often cultivated, to bring the 4 focuses of mindfulness to perfection? Notice I've highlighted that key section there, which is not found in the previous section. So now the sutta says, the Buddha tells us, We're going to use breath to perfect, complete the 4 focuses of mindfulness. And then straight away, next section is the first satipatthana, contemplating the body. 24. Pictures on any occasion. Notice on any occasion, whenever a monk breathing in long understands, I breathe in long, or breathing out long understands, I breathe out long, or breathing in short understands, I breathe in short, or breathing out short understands, I breathe out short. He trains himself thus, experiencing the whole body of breath, I will breathe in. He trains himself thus, experiencing the whole body of breath, I will breathe out. He trains himself thus, calming the bodily bodily formations of breath, I will breathe in. He trains himself thus, calming the bodily formations of breath, I will breathe out. On that occasion, bhikshus, the monk, exertive, clearly comprehending, mindful, dwells contemplating the body in the body, removing covetousness and displeasure for the world. Because this in and out breathing is a certain body amongst the bodies, I say. Therefore, bhikshus, on that occasion, the monk exertive, dwelling, comprehending, clearly comprehending, mindful, dwells contemplating the body in the body, removing covetousness and displeasure for the world. Okay, this is the theory, all right? Now, we all know very well, if you are doing the breath meditation, watching the breath, you can at the same time be doing something else, right? You just focus on the breath. So here again in this section 24, you are starting your meditation all over again. You're doing breath meditation all over again. So in other words here, every time you do your breath meditation, you got to start from the start. You got to start from step 1. If you like, you can call this a second cycle, 24 onwards. It's the satipatthana cycle. Okay, so you start breathing in, breathing out. Okay, and then you watch it. You know it's a long breath. You know, a short breath. You do the meditation your own way. You watch the whole body of breath and so on. Okay, and then clearly comprehending. This one, clearly comprehending means either at the start where you watch the breath, or better is at the end of it, when you emerge very calm and peaceful from the breath meditation, then the mind clearly comprehending, sampajanya, clearly sees, fully sees. See, sampajanya and this clearly comprehending and then mindful, they go together, sati sampajanya. Then you are watching the body. Now notice the body is mentioned here. So here the body refers to the breath. The body refers to the breath because when you're breathing, that's a bodily action. That's the action of your body. The breath is physical at this point, okay? And then removing covetousness and displeasure in the world, okay? Now you notice that it's not mentioned in the first section. It's mentioned here because in this second section, in this part on the 4 satipatthana, we are going to remove the 5 hindrances, right? Removing covetousness and displeasure. Covetousness and displeasure. Covetousness is another big word for craving, desire. Displeasure is the opposite, right? So these are the first 2, what do you call that, hindrances. In fact, this is a shorthand for all the 5 hindrances. So we overcome covetousness and displeasure for the world. The world here refers to the 5 senses, whatever comes to the 5 senses. We let go of that. We are not going to be carried away. We're not going to be hindered by the 5 senses, the 5 hindrances. Okay. So here we use the breath watching the body, watching the breath, we attain jhana. Okay. And then in section 24.3, the Buddha says this in and out breath is a certain body amongst the bodies. Okay. It's just a body amongst the body. So it's not the body itself. Okay. Here it means the bodies are the formations. Okay. Body is physical, earth. In fact, we know when we talk about the body, it's not only earth. It's made of earth, water, fire, wind. Solid aspects, the skin and bones. Then the liquid aspect, heat and wind, right? So this body is just one aspect. In this case here, we're talking about the in and out breath. So the in and out breath is a body, the wind body here, okay, amongst the four elements. Remember, the word body here does not mean just physical body. When you read suttas, you must not behave like a dictionary. You must always be ready to be surprised by the words. Take the words as used in the sutta. Always ask yourself, what does the word body here mean? Okay? Because you know, body can have a specific meaning, meaning the physical body, or it can have a generic meaning, right? Like student body, or a body of workers, right? A group, right? So here it means it's just one aspect in a group. But here the Buddha is specifically speaking of the in and out breathing. Is a certain body among the bodies. This is the wind body. The breath is the wind, expression of the wind. All right? Remember in the Maharahula Sutta, the breath is mentioned example of wind. So this wind is one of the four elements. So it is one wind body amongst the four elements, the other bodies of earth, water, fire, wind. Okay? So that's the meaning here. We take it as one aspect, not just by itself like that. This is also seeing things in context. This is preparing ourselves to understand the nature of conditionality. Therefore, bhikshus on that occasion, the monk, assertive, clearly comprehending, mindful, right? So we are mindful of all this. We understand this. Then we are truly dwelling, contemplating the body in the body. And when we do that, we will clear away liking, disliking, covetousness, and displeasure. Then jhana will arise. Okay, so this you have to do back and forth, all right? In other words, once you are better understanding all these things, your mind won't be wondering what's this, what's that. So you will become more clear each step. Each time you do the breath meditation, and then it comes a point where you're so calm, you're able to totally let go of the five senses or the five hindrances, and then you get jhana, right? Or you are ready for jhana, and then you go to the second part, right? This part B, contemplating feelings. So this is where you go into jhana. How do we know that? How do we do it? Look at section 25. Bhikshus, on any occasion, there you are, on any occasion or whenever a monk trains himself thus, experiencing zest, our breath in, experiencing breath, our breath out. Notice in this case, the word is trains himself, all right? It doesn't say he knows, it just trains himself. I mean, you let it happen, by this time it becomes natural. If you say experience zest, you cannot talk about it. You experience it. It's joyful, and then the breath naturally will come in. So you notice here, it doesn't say I'm aware of the breath. You just breathe in. Okay, all right. In English, it's a bit different. So you think, oh yeah, I will, that means I will do it. But in Pali, no. Pali, the exact verb is not there. It's just that it's telling us the breath is coming in, the breath is going out. So as long as you're meditating, you know the breath is coming in, the breath is going out, unless you're in the fourth jhana, that the breath stops. So here, you feel the first, what do you call it, jhana factor, zest, this piti, very, very exuberant, very great joy. 5. He trains himself thus, experiencing joy, I will breathe in. He trains himself thus, experiencing zest or joy, I will breathe out. 6. He trains himself thus, experiencing happiness, I will breathe in. He trains himself thus, experiencing happiness, I will breathe out. So he's still breathing in, breathing out, but he's not watching it, but he's watching the happiness instead. Happiness is a bit gentler version of the first of zest, okay? More of the mind aspect, if you like, whereas zest is more of the body aspect. 7. He trains himself thus, experiencing the mental formations. I will breathe in. He trains himself thus, experiencing the mental formations. I will breathe out. Here, meaning the flow of the body of breath, the whole breath. He trains himself thus, calming the mental formations. I will breathe in. He trains himself thus, calming the mental formations. I will breathe out. Here, you have to read the next line also. On that occasion, monks, bhikshus, the monk assertive, clearly comprehending, mindful, dwells contemplating feeling in the feeling, removing covetousness and displeasure in the world. So these formations are liking, disliking arising. Okay, very, very subtle, but it's there. So here, the meditator clears that away. He does not see in terms of liking, disliking, it just sees the feeling as feeling. That means the idea of liking arises, disliking arises, but it does not follow it. It just let it come, let it go. Like that doesn't follow it. It's not distracted by it. So he's contemplating feeling in the feeling. He's just saying, oh, this is just one of the feelings. Okay. So one of the feelings is liking, and another kind of feeling is disliking, and another feeling a bit difficult to notice is neutral feelings. It's all there, but it's not getting carried away by it. Just let it come, let it go. Okay. So that's the meaning here. You just watch feelings as they are. 25.3. Bhikshus, full attention to the in and out breathing is a certain feeling amongst the feeling. All right. Here it doesn't mean that the attention itself is that kind of what zest, happiness, and so on. It is the attention. Okay, just talking about the mind is fully aware of all this, and this mind knows, okay, this is just one of those kinds of feeling. Don't get carried away by it. This feeling, liking, disliking, neutral feeling, or just one kind of feeling. It comes, it goes. It's not permanent. 25.4. Therefore, bhikshus, on that occasion, the monk, assertive, clearly comprehending, mindful, dwells contemplating feeling in the feeling, removing covetousness and displeasure in the world. So in doing so, the meditator will not be carried away by feelings. So feeling is cleared away. Then comes the third satipatthana, the third focus on mindfulness, contemplating the mind. 26. Bhikshus, on any occasion, that means when you're ready, when a monk, that's the meditator, trains himself thus, experiencing the mind, I will breathe in. Experiencing the mind, I will breathe out. You can also use the word feeling the mind, if you like, feeling in the sense of knowing it, experiencing it. So here you see the mind by itself. That means the feeling is gone, and here is the mind. And train himself thus, Gladdening the mind, I will breathe in. He trains himself thus, gladdening the mind, I will breathe out. We tried to do this earlier on by smiling, remember? Something like that. You keep the mind bright. Huh? Then notice 11. He trains himself thus, concentrating the mind, I will breathe in. He trains himself thus, concentrating the mind, I will breathe out. So first you know the mind, section 9, and then section 10, you gladden it, right? Smile at it, if you like. Then it becomes more focused. And then, brackets 12, he trains himself thus, freeing the mind, I will breathe in, freeing the mind, I will breathe out. So here again, you're training yourself. He trains himself. Notice, that means not perfect yet. Huh? 26.2. On that occasion, bhikshus, the monk, the meditator, exertive, clearly comprehending, mindful, dwells contemplating the mind in the mind. So this is where you see the mind. It comes and it goes. And you see this process building up, experiencing the mind, gladdening the mind, concentrating the mind, freeing the mind. So this is called watching or contemplating the mind in the mind, not the mind in something else. Okay, and when you do this, the mind, you remove covetousness and displeasure for the world. You are ready for jhana. Okay. In fact, at this point, you're already attained the first jhana. This is what this section actually describes. You're more or less ready for it, at least. So here, the Buddha reminds us, 26.3, I do not say, bhikshus, that there is the mindfulness of the in and out breathing for one who is forgetful or confused, or who lacks clear comprehending. So all the time, you must stay focused, stay focused. That's why there's lots of repetition here to remind us what we're supposed to do. We keep doing the same thing and we don't forget it. Remember, in a computer program, many lines repeat itself, and every line is important. You remove one line, the program won't work. 26.4. Therefore, bhikshus, on that occasion, the monk exertive, clearly comprehending, mindful, just contemplating mind in the mind, removing covetousness and displeasure for the world. So this is watching the mind, okay? Because by this time, the mind is not confused or overcome by distractions like in the first part earlier on. Right? When earlier on, the meditator, we will watch the mind. See, is it filled with desire or hate or whatever? Here the mind is becoming clearer. And then we come to the fourth satipatthana, contemplating dharmas. That means emerging from the dhyana here. 27. Bhikshus, on any occasion, when a monk trains himself thus, contemplating impermanence, I will breathe in. He trains himself thus, contemplating impermanence, I will breathe out. So this, the previous tetrad, the previous four, you are in jhana, okay? Or you are training yourself to build up the jhana, right? Now, when you come out of the jhana, then you reflect on impermanence, contemplating impermanence. Okay, then of course you have to breathe in, breathe out. See? But this time you are naturally aware of the in and out breath already. You don't have to actually watch it. You already used it to focus. So now you focus on the impermanence. So when you watch the breath, it is samatha. When you watch impermanence, it is vipassana. So you can see here how the two are interconnected. You cannot actually separate them. Okay. 13, section brackets 13 again. Trains himself the second line. Contemplating impermanence, I will breathe out. 14, trains himself thus, contemplating fading away. Fading away of what? of lust. So you notice, oh, no more lust, no more desire, negative desire for things. I will breathe in. Train yourself thus contemplating fading away of lust. I will breathe out. So when you reflect impermanence, you also see the slowly weakening, disappearing of lust. Just temporary anyway. 15. He trains himself thus contemplating cessation or ending. The cessation means ending. Sutta only say ending. Ending of what? Of suffering. You're happy, so no suffering. And you breathe in. He trains himself thus contemplating fading away of lust. I will breathe out. 15. He trains himself thus contemplating cessation of suffering. I will breathe in. He trains himself thus contemplating cessation of suffering. I will breathe out. Okay. Then 16. He trains himself thus contemplating letting go. There you are. You see this letting go, renunciation, and letting go of defilements. So all the negative thoughts, negative inclinations are temporarily suspended. I will breathe in. He trains himself thus contemplating letting go of defilements. I will breathe out. So that for a while you feel free. On that occasion, bhikshus, the monk, exertive, clearly comprehending, mindful, dwells contemplating dharmas in the dhammas. Okay, here dhamma refers not to the teachings, although it can, of course, it's all part of the teaching, but here it refers to the mental states, the dhamma, that is the states that are arising in your mind as you focus in your meditation in this satipatthana level here. Removing covetousness and displeasure from the world. Because here again, the mind removes the hindrances. I notice here, one more cycle, one more round. Eh? We keep on doing that until we are really good. Having seen with wisdom the abandonment of covetousness and displeasure, he closely looks on with equanimity. Right? So when no more liking and disliking, the result is even-mindedness, equanimity. So he looks on, we look on peacefully. So this is the peaceful mind. Therefore, bhikshus, on that occasion, the monk, exertive, clearly comprehending, mindful, dwells contemplating dharmas in the dharmas, removing covetousness and displeasure in the world. Okay, so there you are. You see, what's interesting here is it's actually harder to read the sutta than when you meditate, you see. So when you meditate and then you read the sutta, you find it's easier to understand. And you don't need explanation for it. When you read it, you say, oh, okay, this is what it means, you know. 28. Bhikshus, when the mindfulness of the in and out breathing is thus cultivated, thus often developed, it brings the four focuses of mindfulness into perfection, right? So this is the four focuses of mindfulness. So let's look at the diagram now. Okay, so far. No? Okay, that little diagram with the breath meditation. Okay, here you are. So this, well, let's see, like, wait for it a while to come up. Okay, so here we see all the 16 steps of the breath meditation. What we are doing at the start of our class today, we did step 1, 2, 3, 4. No? Of course, most of us are able to do 1 and 2 at least. No? So you practice until you master steps 1 to 4. If you do this properly, then you will experience step 5. You feel this very sense of powerful joy, and then after that comes this happiness, which is more calm. And then step 7 is you watch the whole, the feeling as a whole, and then you calm it. Okay, peacefully. Okay, so it's a bit of memory problem with the computer. Let's just see. Okay, here we are. And then you have section 3, that is completing the mind. You experience the mind, you gladden the mind, concentrating the mind. Now, notice you look at step 10, it says gladdening the mind, shining the meditation sign, the nimitta. So it is because at this point, the breath switches from being the body, it becomes the mind. Okay, so that it is represented by the brightness, it becomes bright. Okay, so that brightness is called nimitta. This word nimitta is a broad term. It can be applied to many things. Whatever you see in your mind, whatever sound you hear, smell, taste, touch, they are also called nimittas. But in this case, it is what you observe in your meditation. And to shine the meditation sign means you keep focus so that this brightness becomes stable and becomes brighter. So that's in step 11, you go on concentrating the mind so that the sign becomes clearer. And then step 12, you free the mind, that means you attain jhana. Then you get out of the jhana, that you go on to step 13, you reflect on impermanence. All this breathing in, breathing out is impermanent, you watch it. Okay, so that means you're out of jhana in this case, but your mind is still focused. There is this neighborhood concentration, upachara samadhi. And then once you are able to do this, then you begin to see desire moving away, fading away. That is step 14. And in step 15, you begin to see, because of that, no suffering. At the moment, suffering is gone. And because suffering is gone, defilements also are gone. All this great hatred delusion temporarily gone. Okay, patinisaga. That is the real renunciation. So this is the satipatthana aspect, to bring jhana into our focus and then to free the mind. Okay, but this only temporary. Okay, this is still not complete yet. Okay, because satipatthana is like a tool. It is something we use to clear the mind, prepared for the real important task, which is in part 3. Part 3 is called perfection of the 7 awakening factors, which will come to in a while after the break. So once again, summarize, we start off by calming our body. The body, all the 4 elements, using the wind element of the breath. That is the first 4 steps. And then in the second part, if you are able to master the breath meditation, first part, then we build up our mind so that we can attain jhana using satipatthana. Now we come to the theoretical part. So this prepare for you for your future practice. Once you are able to master the satipatthana, then you use it to build up, cultivate the 7 awakening factors. In other words, satipatthana is used for countering the 5 mental hindrances and open up the way for the 7 awakening factors. Okay, so now to make it more systematic, we're going to take an early break. Yeah, we'll take a short break for about 5 minutes. Then we'll come back and do part 3, perfection of the 7 awakening factors.
Okay. Thank you, Brother Piya. We'll take a 5 minutes break now. I think we can start now.
Okay. Right. Now we finish off with the sutta, section Roman number 3, perfection of the 7 awakening factors. Okay. Section 29. And how diffuse are the 4 focuses of mindfulness cultivated, often developed to bring the 7 awakening factors to perfection. How do we apply the 7 awakening factors? Now, just for a quick run through, the 7 awakening factors starts with mindfulness. And then Dhamma investigation, the word Dhamma is there again, investigation of mental states, effort, zest, tranquility, mental peace, tranquility, concentration, and then the last one is equanimity, upekkha. All right, so each of these will be repeated 4 times for each of the 4 focuses of mindfulness, or each of the contemplations. Look at number 30. So now we look at first, this is the first contemplation again, the body. Remember, body here meaning the breath as wind. Okay. 30. Bhikshus, on any occasion, when a monk, exertive, clearly comprehending, mindful, whilst contemplating body in the body, removing covetousness and displeasure for the world, then undistracted mindfulness is established in him. Okay, so we become more mindful. So this is another purpose of the satipatthana. After all, satipatthana means sati upatthana, establishing of mindfulness, arousing of mindfulness, focusing the mind. Okay, so the mind becomes more mindful. The mind becomes more sharp and clear, focused. Brackets 1. Bhikshus, on that occasion, when undistracted mindfulness is established in a monk, in the meditator, in you, on that occasion, the awakening factor of mindfulness is aroused in the monk. So then you have the mindfulness that is going to bring you to awakening. That's why it's called awakening factor. Bojjhanga, bodhi plus anga. On that occasion, the monk cultivates the awakening factor of mindfulness. On that occasion, the awakening factor of mindfulness is fully developed for the monk. Okay, so we start with mindfulness. That's the purpose of the breath meditation on the level of the awakening factor, meaning leading us to be free from suffering, right? The psychologists use breath meditation to heal daily problems, overcome stress, things like that. But here we use it for freeing ourselves from the roots of all these problems. 31. Dwelling thus mindful, he investigates and examines that state with wisdom and makes a thorough inquiry of it. Notice here again, you cannot investigate when you are deep in meditation. If you are in jhana, you come out of it. Right? Your mind is calm and clear. Then you examine that mental state with wisdom, meaning you watch its true conditioned nature, the impermanence of it. We make a thorough investigation of it. Bhikshu, on any occasion when a monk dwelling thus mindful investigates and examines that state with wisdom and makes a thorough inquiry of it, on that occasion, the awakening factor of dhamma investigation is aroused by that monk. Notice, dhamma investigation is already defined earlier. It talks about the mental states. On that occasion, the monk cultivates the awakening factor of dhamma investigation. On that occasion, the awakening factor of dhamma in this investigation is fully developed for the monk. So you have mindfulness, then you use the mindfulness to find out what's going on here right now with this mind. And then you go to 32, brackets 3, right? The brackets 3 is a running internal number to help you see the sequence of the awakening factors. 32, for one who investigates and examines that state of wisdom and makes a strong inquiry of it, tireless effort is aroused. So the first 2 lines in every section here will show you how it's connected with the effect of the previous effort. Mindfulness leads to investigation. Investigation leads to effort, right? When you see what's going on, then you have even more energy. Bhikshu, on any occasion when tireless effort is aroused in a monk who investigates and examines that state with wisdom and makes a thorough inquiry of it, on that occasion the awakening factor of effort is aroused in that monk. On that occasion, the monk cultivates the awakening factor of effort. On that occasion, the awakening factor of effort is fully developed in the monk. Effort here means you keep on doing it, don't give up. And if you keep on doing it, what happens? 33. This is now level 4, brackets 4. For one who has aroused effort, there is spiritual zest, joy, right? So you keep on doing this, you feel happy. Just like when you go on reading a sutta, go on translating sutta, you say, wow, this is interesting. Joyful interest. Another translation for piti, zest is joyful interest. It's the joy that keeps you going, that keeps you wanting to know Dhamma. Bhikshus, on any occasion when spiritual zest arises in a monk, on that occasion, the awakening factor of zest is aroused in him. On that occasion, the monk cultivates the awakening factor of zest. On that occasion, the awakening factor of zest is fully developed in the monk. So this is sutta language to show you how joy arises. We already mentioned joy earlier on. It comes again, this very exuberant, very powerful joy, right? So then this joy settles down in the next section 34. For one whose mind is zestful, the mental body is tranquil. The mind is tranquil too, right? So here the hint is that this zest is like it's trailing the body. It's physically, you feel so happy inside you. The body feels it. But the mind is calm. The mind is tranquil. Bhikshus, on any occasion when the monk's mind is zestful and becomes tranquil in body, tranquil in mind, on that occasion, the awakening factor of tranquility is aroused in him. So both body and mind becomes peaceful. So this is sukha on a higher level, very peaceful joy. On that occasion, the monk cultivates the awakening factor of tranquility. On that occasion, the awakening factor of tranquility is developed in that monk. So now body and mind is peaceful. Notice how this level shows it is more refined than the previous section of Satipatthana, right? So there's tranquility now. So once again, you start with mindfulness, and then it builds up to investigation, and then to effort, to zest, tranquility, and tranquility leads to concentration. Look at 35, concentration. For one tranquil in body and happy, notice happy, sukha, nah? The mind becomes concentrated. There you are. That's why we smile. Remember in our meditation, when you're happy, the mind becomes concentrated. If people ask you, how do you know this? Awakening factor. Look at the breath meditation, the breath sutta, sutta on Anapanasati. Bhikshus, on any occasion, among tranquil in body and happy, becomes concentrated. On that occasion, the awakening factor of concentration is aroused in him. On that occasion, the monk cultivates the awakening factor of concentration. On that occasion, the awakening factor of concentration is fully developed in the monk. Notice the sequence again. You start with mindfulness, and then you use the mindfulness to investigate what it is going on at that time in the mind, and then effort arises, you keep on doing it, and then joy arises, you enjoy doing it, then you become peaceful with it, then the mind becomes even more peaceful, concentrated, focused, very clear and calm. And then comes the seventh, the last of the awakening factors, equanimity. 36, nah? He closely looks on with equanimity. Right? We always say looks on with equanimity. That the mind that's concentrated. So you can't do anything with a mind that's focused. You just go on watching it like that. Bhikshus, on any occasion when the monk closely looks on with equanimity at the mind that's concentrated, on that occasion, the awakening factor of equanimity is aroused in him. On that occasion, the monk cultivates the awakening factor of equanimity. On that occasion, the awakening factor of equanimity is fully developed in the monk. So, equanimity here refers to this very focused state of mind, even jhana, okay, so at this stage. Yeah. So, this is the body round. Yeah? This whole thing is a section on the contemplating the body. Okay. So here, meaning you watch the breath at the start, the peacefulness of the breath, and you go on from there. Okay? And then the whole cycle, all the 7 awakening factors are done again. It's time for feelings. Look at 37. Bhikshus, on any occasion when a monk, exertive, clearly comprehending, mindful, thus contemplating feeling in the feeling, removing covetousness and displeasure for the world, then undistracted mindfulness is established in him. So this time you watch the feeling as they arise. When feeling arises, you watch it, okay? And then you let it go, mindfulness arises. And then the same sequence. When you watch this mindfulness, when you dwell with this mindfulness, what happens? You direct the mind to investigate what's going on here, what really is going on here. You investigate all the dhammas that are impermanent, they're changing all the time. Okay? And you keep on doing this, it becomes easier. And then the effort put in makes you feel zestful. That comes to before. Notice here there's only one number, 37, in the brackets 1, 2, 3, 4. Zest arises. Zest is very powerful joy. And then the mind is peaceful. That is brackets 5. Everything is the same, so I'm not going to read the repetition. Eh? And then bracket 6, there is concentration from feelings. Remember, this is a section on feelings. And then the mind 7 becomes equanimous, becomes peaceful. Jhana is attained. Okay, and then you can go on to stay in the jhana if you like. You come out of it, and then go on to watch the mind. That is section C, 38. Section 38. This time the 7 awakening factors are applied to the mind. Bhikshus, on any occasion when the monk is active, clearly comprehending, mindful, thus contemplating the mind in the mind, removing covetousness and displeasure for the world, then undistracted mindfulness is established in him. So this time the mindfulness is applied to watch the nature of the mind. Bhikshus, on any occasion when undistracted mindfulness is established in the monk, on that occasion the awakening factor of mindfulness is aroused in the monk. On that occasion the monk cultivates the awakening factor of mindfulness. On that occasion the awakening factor of mindfulness is fully developed in the monk. So he uses this mindfulness to watch the real nature of the mind. Okay? There's nothing much to talk about here. Because this, you got to experience this. You begin to see, wow, this is the mind. And you notice how you feel about it. Mindfulness. Then Dhamma investigation is possible. And when you go on investigating, this energy is put in, right effort is put in. And then you feel joyful through right effort. This very great joy, and then there is inner tranquility. The mind becomes really peaceful. And because of that, the mind's concentrated. Section bracket 6, there is concentration. And with that comes equanimity, real inner peace, deep focus, jhana. Now you direct the mind to the last of the 4 focuses of mindfulness, contemplating the dharmas. Section 39. Okay. Bhikshus, on any occasion when a monk is active, clearly comprehending, mindful, dwells, contemplating dharmas in the dharmas, removing covetousness and displeasure in the world, then undistracted mindfulness is established in him. So this time we watch whatever the dharma that arises in the mind this time. Okay, the states that arise in the mind, we watch it with mindfulness. Brackets 1 again. 39 brackets 1. So notice again only one number, 39. And then brackets 2, dharma investigation. We investigate really, we see the dharma that arises in our mind. Right? Even now, the dharma can arise in our mind. We think about impermanence, we think about nirvana, we think about Eightfold Path and so on, right? So here, the dharma also arises, but we can investigate in a clearer way using the awakening factor of dharma investigation. It's called awakening factor because when you do this, it builds up your readiness for awakening to reach the path. And then effort continues. You begin to feel more energized, more effort. And then there is this joyful interest, zest. And with that, the result is tranquility, deep inner peace, happiness. That's number 5, brackets 5. Then because of that deep inner peace, 6, bracket 6, there is concentration. You're able to focus. And because you're able to focus, the 7th awakening factor arises, equanimity. The mind is totally peaceful, totally calm. You get concentration, even jhana. Section 40, bhikshus, the 4 focuses of mindfulness thus cultivated, thus developed, bring the 7 awakening factors to perfection. So notice here how one dharma helps another dharma. Section 1, the breath. You start with breath meditation, and then you use the breath meditation to cultivate the 4 satipatthanas, the 4 focuses of mindfulness, and you use that 4 focuses of mindfulness to cultivate the 7 awakening factors. So all this occurs over time as you build up your practice. And then the conclusion, section 4, this is when you bring awakening. You reach the path, okay, at least stream winning. But here it is arahathood is mentioned. Yeah. Section 41. You see the brackets 88 means the body page 88. Huh? 41, and how bhikshus are the 7 awakening factors cultivated, often developed, to bring true knowledge and liberation to perfection. True knowledge and liberation. There is awakening. This awakening frees you from suffering, liberation, yeah, or freedom. You can also translate as true knowledge and freedom. Here, bhikshus, a monk cultivates the awakening factor of mindfulness that is dependent on solitude. Solitude, viveka. There is bodily solitude, that is starting with your first meditation, watching the breath. But through the breath, you free your mind from the surrounding. And then there is mental solitude, when the mind is free from the 5 mental hindrances. Dependent on fading away of lust, right? So here, dependent on fading away of lust refers to freeing, letting go of all the mental hindrances. Dependent on cessation, the suffering is gone temporarily. The ripening and letting go of defilements. So you're ready to let go of greed, hatred, illusion. Temporarily only, but only when you attain arahathood is permanent. Right? You can also say when you attain stream winning also, it is permanent in the sense that you don't fall back by way of breaking the precepts. But we still suffer. We still suffer. You know, sometimes we may say the wrong thing because we like wisdom and so on, and then we regret it. Okay, but we'll never break the precepts when it comes to the stream winning. Okay, now back to the awakening factors. Brackets 2. He cultivates the awakening factor of dhamma investigation that is dependent on solitude, dependent on fading away of lust, dependent on cessation of suffering, ripening in the letting go of defilements. So this time, the 7 awakening factors go through a natural cycle leading to awakening. And then 3, you have effort, and then 4, zest, brackets 5, inner peace, tranquility arises. And with that, 6 comes concentration, Then 7, it cultivates the awakening factor of equanimity that is dependent on solitude, dependent on fading away of lust, dependent on cessation of suffering, ripening in letting go of defilements. The result, you let go of defilements. This equanimity brings you that. Because the 7 awakening factors thus cultivated, thus often developed, bring true knowledge and liberation to perfection. This is what the Blessed One said. Satisfied, the monks rejoice in the Blessed One's word, teaching. Yeah? Right, so here we are. We have done the Anapanasati Sutta, Sutta on the mindfulness of the breath. You see all these words nicely put and describing the nature of the path of awakening through breath meditation. Okay? As I said, it is more difficult when you read the sutta than actually practice it. When you practice it, and then you look at the words, you say, okay, now you understand better. But basically, this is what happens. The fact that the sutta, the Buddha and the monks can describe all this so simply, so clearly, so systematically, is quite amazing for our benefit even today. All right, so I will stop here. We have about just a little over half an hour for question time.
Thank you, Brother Piya, for explaining the sutta. I'll now pass over the session to Sister Axim for the Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Wendy and Brother Piya. Let me read the first question from the chat box. It's from Brother LCO.
Sure.
From this Anapanasati Sutta, I realized that the true meditation process is very wide and specialized at every stage. And what I have learned in the past 40 years is just on the breath meditation, cultivating only the awareness of the body. However, is it possible for me to jump from awareness of the body to tranquility, because I do find peace at that stage?
No, even though you think that you feel peace, that peace is still not strong enough. Okay, so you use that peace to start to practice. Let me put it very simply, it's like you're going jogging. You can't say, okay, shall I just jump to the last mile? I mean, the last few yards. You can't. Okay, you have to run that distance. You must complete the distance. That's what it's about. By going through the practice, you are priming yourself. You're preparing yourself. It's just like a fruit, you cannot just pluck the fruit. You got to wait for it to ripen. Durian, you can't pluck durian. You got to let it ripen. It will drop by itself. For those of you, especially in the West, you don't have durian trees. The durian, as you know, is that prickly fruit with a very nasty smell for some people. There's one fruit, very expensive, very delicious. It's called the king of fruits. You cannot pluck it. You have to wait for this fruit to drop from the tree. When it's ripened, it will drop by itself. So meditation is also like that. Breath meditation also like that. You just keep on doing it. The time will come for the steps to ripen. You complete the stage and then you go on to the next. So remember, the instructions are quite simple. You keep doing it. You cannot jump any part. There are certain meditation you can say forgo, yes, but the sequence you must follow if you want it to really work for you. Okay, no shortcuts in this sense. The shortcut is the breath itself. Just as this Ibu Saido says, the shortcut is the breath. But you cannot shortcut the shortcut, right? Okay, so be patient with yourself. The fun is in the doing. No business dealings with breath meditation. You just practice it as it is. Okay. All right. Any next question?
Thank you, Brother Piya. Next question from Brother LCO. I find that we really need to study this Anapanasati Sutta with diligence to step by step at once in the process, but is it necessary to complete the processes?
My advice is no need to practice. Just read the first part, you understand the first part, and you keep on doing it. And when you have attained some level of peace inside you, then the curiosity will arise and you say, wow, this is interesting. And then when you read the sutta, it's clearer. So the sutta is not a novel, it's not newspaper, right? Remember, I've been studying, for some of you, you might have heard the sutta the first time, the last few sessions. But I've been doing it for the last 50 years, again and again, and I continue to be surprised by it, you know. Sometimes a word, sometimes a line, you know. In fact, Dr. Clement Tan from Malacca, from Living KL, has been very helpful. He has pointed out even more details how we can translate Pali words to be more accurate, more exact, right? And from there, you begin to see that you got to practice step by step, right? So in other words, this focus will appear anytime. So when that appear on that occasion, on any occasion, says the Buddha, and then on that occasion, you do this. On any occasion, A arises, on that occasion, you do B. So don't jump, no shortcuts. Until you know exactly what to do, then you don't have to ask me the question already. Okay? So keep on doing it, in other words.
I have a question, Brother Piya.
Yes, sure.
At the very beginning, during Samantha, we have to develop calmness and tranquility. Before, that is during the Kayu Nupasana, and then at the during this perfection, we also have to develop tranquility from the beginning on, also at the end.
Yes. Yes, yes, of course.
Okay, and then there is one about this one, gladdening the mind, shining. Is this under piti? Contemplation of the mind. Is this pre-piti? Gladdening the mind.
It's under which section was it just now?
That was number 3, contemplation of the mind.
Okay. So that's
Step
under,
number 10, gladdening the mind. Is this piti?
Before jhana arises, you begin to see notice the breath becoming less of body, becomes more mental, in other words. All right. So that begins to shine by we let go of other things. Well, think of the body basically, letting go of the 5 entrances. Then the nimitta will become fuller, brighter, more complete. Okay. Sometimes it just appears as light. Sometimes it can be totally bright, you know. Sometimes you feel the sense of focus. It appears differently to different people. It's not always the same. So don't try to compare notes with people. No? Yeah. So
and then after this, after these 4 steps, or to take emerging from the jhana. No, not this one. I mean, just after this perfection. Then it after Dhamma Nupasana, then it comes to the 4 noble truths.
How do you come to the 4 noble truths?
After we have investigated the Dhamma, then we see the 4 noble truths.
Yeah, you can do that anytime you feel like it. Let it come naturally. Yeah. So you go through one by one, and then as you become more adept, we say, as you become you know better what to do, then all this become more natural. Yeah. For example, you have to remember what are the 7 awakening factors first, right? So you just start off by remembering, okay, mindfulness is the first one. Start there. Okay. And then from there, you know, after that, okay, when I'm mindful, then I investigate what's going on. See? So it must come naturally. We don't just, if you memorize, that's thinking, you see?
No,
Yeah.
When during the retreat they have this recorder, so it's
Mm.
also all written. Then Samma Vacha, Samma Sangkapo.
Yeah.
It's
Yes.
also after the Dhammanupassana. Then come all this the new.
Yeah. But when you are
Eightfold Path.
meditating on your own,
Yeah. Okay.
you don't listen to those things already, because when you're meditating, it's already natural inside you. For example, like when you learn to jog, you naturally, your body will naturally know what to do. But at the start, yeah, the instructor will tell you, move your arm here a bit, put your leg there like that a bit, you see. That's only at the start. After that, it must be natural.
But
It's okay, spend time as much time as you like to remember some of these points. But then remember, you're not meditating at that time, you're just learning those terms.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. All right, very good. So, any more questions? Next question.
Thank you, Brother Piya. Yes, Sister Ratna would like to inform that the next class on 22nd April is about Dhananjani Sutta M97, ST 4.9. The theme is Sariputta guides a dying person to the Brahma world.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me read the next question from Sister Melinda Chan.
Okay.
Okay, Brother Piya, kindly explain again dwells contemplating dhammas in the dhammas. Thank you. Sukihonto.
Okay, first of all, dhamma here means mental states. Mental state. On the simplest level, when you are doing the breath meditation and you come out of the breath meditation, you feel a bit peaceful, some level of peacefulness. Then you look at your mind. Okay, what kind of mind do I have now? Angry mind or sad mind? Whatever mind you examine as it is. All right, but this can be done anytime, because sometimes, let's say, you get a nightmare and you wake up, middle of the night. You apply this, okay? You say, okay, what is this mind? Fear. Or what is this mind? Sadness. Someone passes away, you feel sad. Sadness. Okay, so this is what it is. You watch it, know what it is. One way to apply Four Noble Truths. You say, okay, first, just take it what it is. Don't react to it. So what happens is when we don't study Buddhism, we react to it. We start, say, oh no, what's going to happen to me? We start doing all those silly things. Like, as children, we even cry, see? And that cry means it's cry for help. I don't know what to do. Help me. That's the meaning of the cry. You see? And then as we grow older, we don't cry because we know what to do. That's the whole point, you see. And then when you study Buddhism, you know even better what to do. What to do? Identify the state for what it is, nothing more, nothing less. Fear, sadness, even joy, right? We can also be fooled by joy, right? Greed. Someone phones up and say, I'm going to give you $1 million. I get excited and we believe it. That is silly, right? So this is what it is. And then take it for what it is. It's just this feeling. Number two, how did it arise? Right? Maybe we don't know the cause, but it arose from something else, something, right? We may not know what it is, but there is this condition. It doesn't arise by itself. There is the condition. Maybe you know it, maybe you don't know it. Later on, you might find out what's going on, okay? So it is, you didn't cause it. It didn't appear automatically or by luck. There are conditions. Either you know it or you don't know it, all right? Therefore, it will end. It is conditioned. It will end. It's not permanent. Very often we don't tell ourselves that. We say, oh, this is going to be forever, That is not true, right? It will end, right? And then just let it go. Now that let it go, you can do something extra. For example, you can recite Namo Tassa, or you can go into your other meditation, you see. So this is dealing with mental state in daily life, right? But in the breath meditation, while you're sitting there, you just notice what kind of mind is it? Is it focused or not focused? Is it distracted or not distracted? What am I supposed to do next? That's how you apply all the things you have learned in your meditation. Okay? So read up the notes. You find lots of footnotes here and then there are cross references. Tell you look in the notes in front, introductory notes, which are longer, the notes in the introduction. So there you find more details. So in your free time, just There are lots of notes in this. So that's one thing about the Sutta discovery. It's a modern commentary on the suttas. You find there's so much there you can read by yourself. Even in the future, when I'm not around, these notes will still explain themselves with your practice. With your practice. So remember, dhamma here refers to mental states. So you tell yourself these mental states are mind-made, they are conditioned, they are a mental state among many mental states. They come, they go. There's nothing special about them in that sense. All right? If you
Thank you, Brother Piya.
If you're not clear, something missing, just ask again. All right.
The next question from Brother Ryan Gore.
Sure.
In every step of the practice, there is a condition whereby the lust is overcome, but lust is not always present during meditation. How can we be certain lust is overcome?
Well, you don't think about it. You don't think about it. It doesn't come. It doesn't arise. You're able to focus. So that's, if it's not there, then keep it that way. We don't think about it, you see. All right. But remember, it is still temporary, you see. Even for stream winners, still temporary. Stream winners still have not got rid of lust yet. Lust and hate. You get rid of lust, you get rid of hate also. They go together, right? So the stream winners will still have lust, hate, anger, things like that, but they are well in control, right? The stream winner, as we know, will have no belief in self. They don't identify with the five aggregates or with their body or mind. They don't have doubts about the three jewels. The mind is quite clear about suttas, teachings, and then they don't depend on rituals. They don't depend on outside things to solve their problems. They use their mind to solve their own problem. As I mentioned earlier, many times I mentioned how we use the Four Noble Truths to let go of the suffering. All right. So there is still a bit of craving very difficult to get rid of. Only the Arahat totally get rid of it. The non-returner is also able to get rid of it, right? But still the non-returner has a bit of worry, you know. Sometimes because of compassion, the non-returner may feel trouble, say, oh dear, my relatives, my loved one are still suffering, you know, something like that. So they still have a bit of restlessness. So even restlessness is a kind of subtle craving, if you like. We care about other people, right? So let all these defilements settle themselves stage by stage. All right, next question.
Thank you, Brother Piya. Next question from Brother Goh Hian Kui.
Sure.
Brother Piya, in the 16 steps, it mentions the jhana factor of piti but not sukha. Does it refer to only the attainment up to the level of second jhana instead of up to fourth jhana implicitly?
No, sukha is mentioned indirectly. For example, you find what do you call it? Under tranquility. It's indirect, yeah. Okay, because tranquility, the body also becomes calm and joyful, right? So that there is sukha there is present, okay, but not mentioned directly. Because here the idea there is this, the sutta, the dhamma names are given very systematically, so that you don't have to become too technical, right? But zest can be troubling because you get very excited, very joyful. So we want it to calm down, you know. So the tranquility is the calming down of the zest. So sukha is included there. Sukha simply means comfort, right? Bodily comfort, and then you feel good about it. Okay, next question.
Thank you, Brother Piya. Next question from Brother LCO. Sir Piya, can you explain some information about walking meditation and what does it differ from here?
Oh, okay. Walking meditation is good when you need a break, especially you have done long sitting, then you feel tired. So if you're too tired, then your meditation won't go very well. Usually, if you're a beginner, every hour, say you reach about 45 minutes, 1 hour, then take a break, do a bit of walking, maybe 10, 15 minutes of walking, right? To do walking meditation, of course, you can just walk around, but that's not so good as walking meditation. Walking meditation is different. That means you stand. Walking meditation also means standing. You've got to be mindful of your standing as you get up. Notice where you put your hand, how you support yourself, but do it naturally, be aware of it, and then you stand up, like yoga like that. Then you stand up, you're also mindful, standing, and then when you're standing, you're mindful of your feet pressing against the ground, and you notice the balance in your body, right? Do it naturally and notice all that. And then you stand with your hands in front of you or at your side. Then you look down. Okay, first, if you want to look around, you can just look around to have an idea of the place, but don't get distracted by things around you. Like, don't look at people and then you start getting curious what they're doing, you start thinking, then no focus already. So look in front of you, a plow's length according to the sutta. In other words, about 45 degrees down, so that you know what's in front of you. And then as you stand, you notice the mind says, okay, I'm going to walk now. That's called intention, right? Then you can have right foot forward, left foot forward, doesn't matter. See which foot wants to go first. You do that. And then right foot forward, stepping. Left foot forward, stepping. After the fact, that means intention, action, note. Intention, action, note. Like that. Okay? So you note the steps. In the suttas, in one of the essays on, I think, Bhavana, there's a diagram there showing all the different stages, 6 stages, I think, of the walking meditation. I also mentioned the walking meditation in our latest book, volume 60, SD 60.1 AB, or 1A rather. This is a summary of all the teachings of the modern Vipassana and Samatha masters of Myanmar and Thailand, all in one volume, 250 pages. I mentioned walking meditation also, volume 60A, okay, which is coming out in a couple of weeks' time. So find out more about the steps of meditation. In fact, this one is quite commonly taught by many teachers. So walking meditation, you do very slowly. You do the walking as your focus of mind. And that also helps you to stretch. Again, the speed is up to you, okay? If you find that you need a little bit more exercise, go a little fast, okay? If you find old people will go slower, right? Of course, not too fast until you can't notice anything now. So just fast enough and be mindful what's going on. You must also have sampajanya, don't forget, mindfulness and full awareness. You should also be aware of surroundings, you're stepping properly so you don't fall, balance, things like that. Anytime you feel like little bit of imbalance, then just standing meditation like that. So walking meditation includes standing meditation, okay? And then you stop at the, oh yeah, you have to locate the 2 point A, point B, where you start, where you end. Normally it's about, let's say, 10 feet, 15 feet should be enough, I think. A little longer should be okay, but not too long. And we don't go wondering about it. It's actually point A, point B, right? And then you reach point B, standing again, and then turning, and then standing again, and then walking. So you go as many times as you feel like it, and then when you reach your seat, you sit down, continue with your sitting. Okay. The next question.
Thank you, Brother Piya. Question from Brother LCU. I have read somewhere that during meditation, someone can go OBE, out of body experience. How true is this?
No, it's not as simple as we think. It doesn't happen so easily. These are all stories by people who don't meditate, who like to gossip and talk all this. And so I just love talking all these dramatic things. You can try. It's very difficult to get out-of-body experience. They're just stories. Don't worry too much about them. You're a serious meditator, you won't be bothered by all those stories, right? But if you notice it happening to you, yeah, then you can ask questions about it. So otherwise, don't think too much about it, right? That's the thing about religion. There's so many things that you can talk about, no proof, so anyone can say anything, all right? So then you start speculating, then you'll be able to meditate. That is what a streamer won't do, right? Don't bother about those things. Know what you're experiencing, understand what's going on. How do you do it safely? You cannot base your meditation on gossip and speculation, and you're not meditating. Then you'll be slow. You'll be left behind in your development. So stay focused. All right. So that's my best advice. If you want to stay, if you want to be lost in all this argument, go ahead. That's the long journey you take, and then later you realize, oh, it doesn't help me at all. And you come back to the same point that I have given you now. Okay. All right. Next question.
Thank you, Brother Piya. At the moment, there's no question in the chat box.
Okay, we have slightly under 10 minutes. Well, this is quite an important sutta. I'm happy I completed it with you. So just go on practicing. You find that's the best way to understand it. All right. So when you do your breath meditation during the review period, you can look back, or anytime you look back, you notice a certain interesting developments, you notice something interesting in your practice, and then you notice there is something that Sutta talks about that. So then you start connecting the dots. Don't worry about jumping, say, wow, so difficult, this part, that part. Because we're so lucky to have all this very full and detailed description by the Buddha. So you take your time to practice. Even if you don't get in this life, it's okay, but you have laid the groundwork for it. And then before you know it, you understand much more than you will wonder, The important thing is be curious. Occasionally look at the sutta, right?
Does eating garlic onions affect meditation?
Well, it's up to you. You eat and notice what happens. Overeating, of course. Overeating always affects some way. All this garlic thing, they actually is the monks' rules, Vinaya rules about what are called the pungent plants. The pungent plants happen to be, you got to dig them up, you see. So the rule is more about not digging. The monk's not supposed to dig all this up, okay? Because then when the monk dig the ground, then these little bugs also get killed. So if a lot of monks start doing this, it will be very troublesome for the other people. So the Buddha makes simple rules, because a monk's supposed to live simple, renounced life, you see. The other thing is health, because for these monks, I think the Indian idea of traditional medicine, garlic is energizing. Yeah, so you have all this extra energy, and it's not going to help them. They feel a lot of lust, things like that. So you often hear some of these health specialists will tell you, oh, garlic is good for your health. That's what they mean, is it? So these are the two usual explanations now. Okay, one is not to dig it up, the other is not to excite your body, basically, right? To calm the body, keep the body calm. Okay. And also you have rules about monks not eating meat of wild animals, for example. They're not supposed to eat meat of tiger and elephant and so on. And here also you have different explanations. For example, if they eat meat of wild animals, apparently if they go to the forest, the animals can sense them, and they will attack them, right? And they're not supposed to eat meat of elephant, horses, and so on, because these are the king's cavalry, the king's defense, So if they eat that, and then people start killing elephants, the monks will be in trouble, the king will be very angry. So of course, these are big animals, they are wonderful, intelligent animals. So it's terrible to eat them. This COVID thing started because some people have the habit of eating weird animals, meat eating. It took me many years, to think about this, and I told myself, oh, I got to really seriously cut down on meat, right? So with help of Ratna, so I'm much more meatless now. Okay. So knowing what to eat, what not to eat helps. Right? You look at yourself and to build up your strength that way, bit by bit. Okay. Any other question? No? 5. Okay, a couple of minutes more for questions.
Brother Piya, there's a
Yes.
question from Brother LCO.
Sure.
Can I share an experience that I was once a full vegetarian for 1 year, and during those time, meditation to get into tranquility is faster. Is it true that vegetarian can go faster?
Well, you have experienced it yourself, so I would say you look at yourself. How do you take to it? I think the idea is to do it gradually. Don't do it too suddenly. And then again, notice how to eat healthily, balance. If you are vegetarian, of course, you need variety, lots of, and you need a bit more bulk, more vegetables. And choose the vegetables that you like to eat. And remember, you got to balance other things like not too much salt, sugar, things like that also. You should chat with Ratna over this. She has a lot to tell you about this. Well, she's a vegan, by the way, so even more strict than vegetarian. So it makes you feel lighter, easier in your meditation. If you take a lot of meat, then you find you get more drowsy more easily. Before class, I always eat much less, eat a little bit, because if I eat too much, I have this monk's problem, after meal drowsiness. Okay, so I cut down even eating just a little bit before classes, then I'll eat after that some more. So know yourself, and that way your health also will be better. Okay, so balance up. Also, if you find that switching to taking totally meatless diet difficult for you, then you cut down meat. You can stay with fish, for example. You can eat a bit of fish, or seafood, maybe a little bit of seafood. It's just for the. I mean, normally we are attached to taste. That's one of those things. One of our families, on our side, the whole family is vegetarian. It's amazing, I think it's in the genes. Even the children, child is a vegetarian. So it's a matter of how this taste comes to you. Make it natural. Okay. All right. So any last minute questions? We have finished already. Yeah?
I think that's all, Brother Piya.
Okay, just nice. So we'll end here then. All right. So let us now once again reflect on this wonderful moment. 2 hours we've gathered together, doing something very wonderful and wholesome, keeping our minds in the moment, watching the breath, learning about breath meditation. Remember this moment of peace that you have, this wonderful, wonderful, good karmic seed you have sowed. Remember this moment. By all the good deeds you have done today, may we all be well and happy, at peace with ourselves, grow in wisdom, stay healthy, recover quickly when we do fall sick. And also send your kind thoughts to your loved ones, your teachers, your friends, relatives. those who are important to you. Wish them well and happy. May there also be peace in Europe and elsewhere. People learn to care for each other. Above all, let us remember with joyful gratitude to the Buddha, his teaching, and the great saints of the past who have lived by their own examples for us. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava, Buddhang Bhagavantang Abhivademi. Bow down. Swakato Bhagavata Dhammo, Dhammang Namasami. Bow down. Supatipano Bhagavato Savaka Sangho, Sanghang Namami. Bow down. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Yes, please turn on your videos.
Okay, wonderful, yeah. Okay, that's good. Let's see everyone. It's nice to be able to talk Dhamma as it does through Zoom. Very safe. Also very convenient.
All right. Okay. 1, 2, 3, smile. One more. 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, thank you very much, everybody.